I mean, all businesses can be, it's either product evolution or it's marketing evolution. I mean, every founder I know who's had like outside success, and I know some that are way more successful with me, like a lot of them have been on the back of channel expansion too. So I have some friends who built a huge $1 billion company, and they built it, when Ulta was just really starting or was starting to grow, and they were like a core brand there. And so they were able to like leverage that growth. A lot of us were in kind of the beginning of Instagram, where Instagram was around when we started, but we kind of rode that growth. And now you see that with TikTok. You saw it with influencers. If you're lucky and you have a smart enough team and you're brave enough, you kind of hopefully can keep that going, that cycle going, where you ride those evolutions over and over again. I mean, some brands that I really admire who's been able to do that are brands like Tarte. They've sort of ridden that wave over and over, and they've created products that are relevant to the market, like time and time again. And I think that's really, when you're in it, you realize how hard that is to do.
Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike. Welcome, everybody, to Minutes with Mike. Today, our very special guest is Miss Natalie Mackey. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to see you.
And of course, if nobody recognizes that name, she is the co-founder of Winky. And I always love having founders on the program because they bring a very special edge to it, right? It's one thing to work in a high-profile job. It's a whole nother thing to have it go from here to actually happening. So I wanted to dive right in. We're going to talk about sort of you in depth, what brought you to this wonderful place in your life. And it all kind of starts at the beginning. So how did it start at the beginning? Like, as a youth, did you always have sort of that feeling like I'm going to have my own business? Was there somebody that you knew well that was sort of guiding you? Like, how did it begin?
Well, the beginning is kind of crazy. And yes, I agree. The founders are a particular sort of unhinged. And it's funny, the longer I've been an entrepreneur, the more I hang out with other entrepreneurs, because you have to have like a certain type of screw loose to enjoy doing what we do, and dealing with employees and cash flow and rejection and retailers and vendors and all this stuff, and consistently convincing people to be on your team and to believe in the vision. So you have to kind of be a little nuts. But my first business was when I was like 15. I had 16, because when I got my first car when I was 16, this old beat up car. And I went to a huge public high school that had 4,000
Where are you
students. I'm from Georgia by way of Florida. So by that time we moved to Florida. So I ran this route. It was like the first Uber. So I would charge people because it was, if you took the bus to school, it was a really, really long ride. And so I had a younger brother and sister. They were 2 years behind me in school, and they were kind of like my marketing team. So we had like a sign up sheet, and I had, we had like, accounts payable, accounts receivable. And it was, that was like my first sort of ragtag business. But then I had, various other things that I started throughout college and stuff like that.
You go to college, and how did it start with beauty? Like, was it something like when you were entering school? You can dive as deep into that as you want, but was that something like you came going, when I come out of this, I want to have a degree in this so I can sort of leap into this world? Or what did it sort of unfold accidentally?
Yeah, no, it really, so I wasn't like a rich kid. So I knew in order to live in New York, I had to take a job in a industry where I could support myself. So I ended up in finance, and was my brief but brilliant finance career. I enjoyed that. I learned a lot, but I was really instantly drawn to the entrepreneurs that I met through it around that time. Like I was working for a fund and they bought companies, and when I would meet the founders of those companies, that's who I really wanted to spend time with. And that's what I was really interested in. And then I ended up leaving after about 4 years and starting a company with a different company called Crises with two co-founders. And that company's actually still in business. And we helped brands. It was really kind of like management consulting. We helped brands create like different types of businesses, different revenue streams. And a lot of that was in like the fashion space. And I did do a beauty deal while I was there. That is when I got hooked into the beauty business, which is still, I think, the greatest business in the whole world because you get to sell magic as
Very well said.
I'm assuming everybody, but everybody knows the name Winky Lux. And you were just about, I stopped you before we started filming. You were going to tell me where that name came from because I had my own predetermined ideas, but you tell me, where did it come from?
it was a joke name. It was supposed to be a holding name, and it came from the movie Best in Show. There's a scene where Catherine O'Hara, who just passed away, R.I.P., one of my favorite actresses, but she holds this little terrier and she says, "You're going to show Winky," and then Winky wins the dog show. And that was sort of a funny thing that my co-founder and I, we just we hadn't determined the name yet. And so we had that as our holding name as we were working on the business. And we just fell in love with it. We couldn't leave it. So it was very fearless, the brand, because it wasn't supposed to be our mainline business. Originally, we were starting a tech platform. You fill out a quiz, and it was like an affiliate marketplace. And then we decided to start a brand to fill in some holes, but it was like a total side project. Again, like very unhinged and very fun. And I think that really bled into like the aesthetics of the brand, which are they're like unapologetically fun.
You and I just recently met, but I can tell you have this sort of aura around you that when you find something that you know that you like, when you find something that you want to sink your teeth into, you don't start slow, you jump right into it 2 feet first, right? When you start these businesses, when you start Winky Lux, obviously there's probably some fastballs that come at you right out of the gate. You have an idea, you think it's a great idea, everybody's telling you it's a great idea, but what are the sort of startup problems that you can expect along the way? Or maybe share some stories of your startup problems, because I'm sure there are some.
Yeah. Even we had all kinds of crazy stuff. We had a product go really viral, kind of when viral products were a new thing. And it blew up so fast. It was our flower ball. It was not our first product. It wasn't a product we launched the brand with. It was a product that we had found in Korea. It was like a technology we'd found in Korea. And then we decided to launch it because we thought it was really pretty and it was cool. But we really thought of it more as like a novelty product. I enjoyed it, and we should have been more thoughtful because I was using it every day. So I should have realized the consumer would feel similarly. But we launched that thing and it blew up. We sold like 1 million units in a year. And it was like all hell broke loose. So we went from a team of 3 people to, I think a team of 10 in that year. We had to go raise capital in that year because it was too big to like fund even through our suppliers or through debt. And it was like, 24/7 for a long time. Some of the things that happened were like, we were selling the product so fast that we would put it on the website as soon as it hit the port in California, we would put it on the website. And this was a stupid thing to do. So we would say like ships in 7 days. And we were honest about the ship time, but we didn't have it in our warehouse yet. And so a truck carrying like thousands of units of it got into a car accident and caught on fire. And we had to personally email thousands of customers, give them free product, apologize profusely. I mean, I think in hindsight, we handled it by just falling on the sword and being really, really owning the mistake. But what a dummy thing to do. And I mean, we were up like all night, like emailing these people, like we're so, and just dealing with like all the rage these consumers. And then eventually my co-founder is really funny. And he had like shirts made that said that the bombs are on fire, and it had like pictures of them on fire. So that was funny, but it was like extremely stressful. And we're getting like all this hate online, and it was crazy.
They always say too, like that, and just from my own experience, right? Because, I've been doing this a long time too, and certainly with things like supply chain, but like when that mistake happened, you probably thought it was the end of the world, right? You probably had tears streaming as you were typing these emails. You're like, we'll never recover from that. But it's almost a necessary evil. If you look back now, like you tell this story, you have a smile on your face as you're saying it because you lived it, because now it's funny, right? But like it almost was a plus that it happened because it made you realize what the yeses and the no's should be moving forward. Like, we're never going to do that again. And even the way you explain it, where you say, we should have known better. But of course you did. You were trying to rush to market. You were doing it the best way you could. But those mistakes, we have a lot of founders that come on here that point to a mistake or a questionable call or something that went horribly wrong, whether it's packaging or, a truck carrying a product getting in an accident. Something along those lines really is what defines you and how you can do business. So you could probably point to that as a plus now, right?
I do. I mean, you can learn from other people's mistakes, which is the best way to learn. But it's really hard to like leapfrog from not knowing to knowing.
Right.
So, and it just seems like every time there's gonna be something that comes out of the woodwork to smack you in the head. So I mean, it kind of is like, I guess you get to a point where you kind of see the fun in it. And you're like, this is a new challenge. Yeah. And you realize like what risks you can mitigate that make sense and what risks you have to take in order to run a business. Because you're constantly kind of in like risk assessment.
I don't want to jump ahead, but like that makes me think like the way you explain it, I was getting goosebumps as you were saying it because you never really lose that, right? Like you may move from one product to the next or one marketplace to the next, but that sort of core feeling that you're talking about, you never get rid of that. Like once that's embedded, or in your case, once you grew up like sort of feeling that way, it never goes away. And I think that's why you find a lot of founders that either, move on from their first company or they just have a new idea. They just sort of reconnect and re-click and start it all over again.
Totally. It's an addiction.
Yeah. Back to Winky Luck. So I was, of course, doing a lot of research and went on the website, blown away by the different products. And I told myself I was going to ask you this question. And this may seem super naive, but how does somebody come up with the products themselves, the ideas of putting an actual flower in a gloss, or, from everything from the packaging to the way it looks to the way it's marketed? Like, who comes up with all those? Is that something you kind of like set out there and the team sort of puts it together? Did you connect with somebody on there? Like, give me best practices on that.
It's like a matrix of input. And a lot of times so I have a mentor that talks about things as evolutionary or revolutionary. And a lot of beauty is evolutionary. So you're taking a technology and that technology actually had been around for a long time, like 20 years, and that's a real flower that's inside of it. It's a baby chrysanthemum. It's grown in Brazil. I think we're like the largest buyer of them. And that had been around for a minute. We were the first people to kind of clean it up, use a different type of emulsive process and make it like more acceptable to the US market, past all the clean standards. So I wouldn't say like, I don't want to take credit where it's not due. Like we sort of brought it to the US, but we didn't invent it, so to speak. And I think that's a lot of beauty can be, all businesses can be, it's either product evolution or it's marketing evolution. I think a ton of every founder I know who's had like outside success, and I know some are way more successful with me, like a lot of them have been on the back of channel expansion too. So I have some friends who built a huge $1 billion company, and they built it, when Ulta was just really starting or was starting to grow, and they were like a core brand there. And so they were able to like leverage that growth a lot of us were in kind of the beginning of Instagram, where Instagram was around when we started, but we kind of rode that growth. And now you see that with TikTok. You saw with influencers. If you're lucky and, they're a smart enough team and you're brave enough, you kind of hopefully can keep that going, that cycle going, where you ride those evolutions over and over again. I mean, some brands that I really admire who've been able to do that are brands like Tarte. They've sort of ridden that wave over and over, and they've created products that are relevant to the market, like time and time again. And I think that's really, when you're in it, you realize how hard that is to do. But thinking of the products comes from product developers. It comes from the factory a lot of times. Sometimes there's new innovation in a raw material, like a raw material that can do something we've never seen before. A lot of innovation comes from like social listening and seeing what's happening in the market. Like people are moving away from powder foundations. They're moving into like serum foundations, or, you're seeing a lot of chatter around like Korean technology. That's been, I know for the past 10 years, we've been in Korean, but I think it kind of comes from all over the place. And then it's like 10% inspiration, 90% perspiration. So then you got to figure out how to sell it to somebody, convince somebody that's great, and figure out how to make it for the right price and sell it for the right price and not have it burned down along the way.
Great segue too, and awesome answer. You're a young woman, but you're really unique because these founders today, and when I say today, I would say, probably in the last 15 years or so, 20 years, whatever it is, are growing up in a world of social media, right? In the past, if you had started a brand, you were writing press releases to newspapers, magazines, TV, radio, that sort of thing. Now it's all instant, right? It's community building. It is storytelling at its finest, right? With the ebbs and flows of that, right? As high as you can soar, if you do it incorrectly, as deeply as you can fall, right?
Yeah.
And I think when, 100 years from now, when you're an older person and you're looking back, you're going to be like, I kind of grew up in that world, right? We were inventing things as we went along, including, how you connected with creators and how you marketed your product. Because again, there's only so much you could put on a website, right? And direct people there to read and see for themselves. Tell me a little bit about your storytelling process when you were coming to market, when you were developing the products. Like, how did you engage the micro social people, the macros, like all those different folks? How did you engage them?
So we really relied heavily on relationship building because we just didn't have the budgets that some of our competitors did. So we relied a ton on in-person activations where I could meet people, build a relationship with them, find people who were genuine fans of the brand, which sounds kind of trick because people say, oh, you can find genuine fans of the brand. Yes, that's kind of like that's like table stakes. We generally went after more micro influencers as opposed to some of the big ones. We could just never afford the huge ones. And beauty is pricey.
Right.
So, beauty influencers make, I think, the most. They have to make the most out of all the influencers. Like they're selling most high margin product and they're being, courted, if not stalked by.
Hey, that happened in a snap too, right? Like, because there was once a time where they were just happy to get product. Then overnight they were like, actually give me $10,000 or whatever their going rate is, right? Yeah.
And it became more of like a celebrity relationship. Right. More agencies, more standardization and pricing, things like that, which is why I think influencers are still really important, but also not necessarily like an unfair advantage because it's fully priced. It's still like you have to do it. And if you're not on social, you're not really relevant in the world.
Right.
And if influencers are talking about you, if they're not at least seeing the product, like you don't live. So I still think it's important, but I think it's interesting to think about what the next influential crew will be. Like we went from Facebook to Instagram, and Instagram was really the rise of like the parasocial relationship. Like you have these people that you feel like to TikTok, more like gritty short form video content. And now it's like, what's next? Like, gonna be like Substack or
Yeah,
Beehive
I know,
or
I know.
something?
It just changes so quick, right? On a dime, it'll snap. Wanted to jump in there too and ask you about social selling and things like TikTok Shop, right? Like, so this is upping the ante again. In one way, it's making things a lot easier for people to bring stuff to market, right? Because now all you need is a camera and a room to shoot some studio time and you're rolling. On the other hand, it's could be construed as a negative, right? Because, who knows what the future of retail is and how that's compromising that. But like, I wanted to get your take on it. What is your thoughts on this whole social selling thing? Do you think it helps the marketplace? Do you think it's a positive, a negative? What do you?
I, as a consumer, think it is sort of the way in the light because it's what I'm doing. I'm a mom and I am on Amazon every day.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Somebody's ringing your doorbell every day. Yeah.
Every day there's something. I'm going to get toilet paper on Amazon. Everything comes. But TikTok has changed how much I convert for. And I think what's interesting is like the sort of weird alliance, like some would call it an unholy alliance between TikTok and Amazon and how much they influence each other. But I do find myself buying on TikTok Shop. And I said a year ago, it still feels weird to buy on TikTok Shop, but in a year, I'm betting 30% of my online purchases are going to be here. And there they are.
Yeah.
They're all like, it's like really great for novelty products. It's really great for products you could tell stories about. But I found myself like, I bought a print for my daughter's room, like a piece of art on TikTok, which is bizarre. Like now you're starting to sell higher ticket items that are much more high consideration. It used to be buy this ring light, buy this, like it was very inevitable, all this. Yeah. But then all of a sudden you started to get these trusted relationships, and not only trusted relationships, but more of this, like I bought like drywall anchors off of TikTok yesterday.
Insane.
So I'm thinking, what is happening? I see like a huge new world of like even DIY and cooking and things like that all being done in the moment. So content to commerce is like, it's finally doing what we kept saying it was going to do. Like it's starting to collapse a little.
And you'll probably agree too. It's not exclusive to men or women or boys or girls. It's across my 19-year-old son who's at college. He came home and he was wearing some kind of sweatshirt with weird branding on it. And we're like, where did this come from? This is the guy who's my wife still buys him all his clothes, right? So he's like, I got it on, TikTok Shop. And we're like, and my wife was like, what is that? But I was like, I know what that is, right? Like, and he's like, no, I went on 5 minutes later, but it came 2 days later. It was insane how that generation, especially, young men, that you don't expect them to be searching for, things like fashion or beauty products online are, right? Our world is ever changing, right? And now what I also wanted to say was like, they have these facial recognition technology, right? So you go on, you can try on glosses and lipsticks and eye pencils and liners and everything you wanted to buy and apply, you can try online, press a few buttons, and then ding dongs. It's insane.
Well, I think it's fascinating in fashion. Like I follow, this is like totally off the reservation, but I follow an influencer who has like my exact body type, who kind of looks like me. And I buy stuff she's slinging. Like I'm like, oh, that'll look good. That looks good on her. I'll buy it. And she's like a proxy for me dealing with going to a store and changing into something. So I find it to be really, and now we're getting even more so like there are new apps where you can, upload a picture of yourself and it shows you what each product looks like on you. And some of that is like, it's not quite crossing the uncanny valley yet. Like it's still weird, but it's going to get there eventually. And when I go into stores, I have to be really inspired to want to buy something. I really don't find myself as inspired in retail stores as I used to. And I think that's their challenge is going to be maybe getting rid of like low performing doors and focusing on making the doors that do perform really inspirational.
Right.
Because otherwise I can get drywall anchors on TikTok.
One thing also that goes a little bit overlooked is packaging, right? So here at PIMS, we're doing a lot of white glove influencer marketing send outs where a lot of it's supported with cool, custom, funky, one-of-a-kind packaging, right? Where somebody comes to us and says, we are sending out something that is, a product you've seen before, but it's done a little bit differently. Here's our catch. We want to build some packaging around that. It always used to get me thinking too, like that's, packaging ties into boxing, right? And transport. What about packaging for the actual product itself, right? Because sometimes that sells, right? Somebody, the unknown consumer that's passing by, your company name is a little eye-catching, they look over. Sometimes if the product package is not right, they'll skip it, right? I remember reading some studies saying like, they were talking about how, it's well known with the supermarkets, they charge more for the space right at eye level. Same thing with these beauty performers, right? Like those eye-catching packages sometimes do the trick, but your packages are awesome. So tell me, how did that unfold? Like, and what kind of process is that to sort of run by and approve and change and tweak and change and tweak?
Very iterative. But packaging was always just something that we, for better or for worse, were really obsessed with. Probably because of the way the brand started. We didn't have I wasn't an influencer, I wasn't a makeup artist. And so my best way to catch attention at retail was to have packaging that looked different. We also were in an environment, Target, Ulta, or Winky Lux's biggest customers, and there needs to be something that stops you in your tracks while you're there. And we're more expensive than a lot of products there. Really great quality, but in order to justify that, you need to have a really great experience on top of that. And the packaging is part of the experience. If it's not so beautiful, it's not for every brand. Some brands really are their value proposition is in value, or it's in the influencer relationship, or it's in there are a million different value props, but for us, it was really the experience. And so we needed to have, like, you need the boxing to be as so pretty kept.
Right.
So that was how we knew we were successful. Is we would get emails from people and they would say, I have like a pile of your boxes. I can't throw them away because they're so pretty.
That's awesome.
So that is something that we wanted. But I think it's interesting as I think through like my next company, we're talking about packaging right now, and there's a ton of emphasis on like how do you strike that balance between something that looks really eye-catching and good and creates an experience, but also doesn't destroy your margin so that you can have a successful business. And you don't want to pass on to all that cost to the customer. But still, I really think, look, we're in a very commoditized world. You can get anything you want on Temu or Alibaba, and you can get it for pennies. And so you have to give me something special. Otherwise, there's no point.
That's right. Well said. Sustainability, wanted to touch upon that, right? Because there was a time, again, on my end of the world where people were looking at sustainability sort of on just the periphery, right? It was less crinkle and bubble and plastics and, instead of packing a box inside a box, maybe we'll just go up, a self-shipper of sorts. It's a whole nother animal when you're talking about the products and the ingredients around those products too. So how important is that to a founder? You don't want to be the brand that doesn't have sustainability attached to it, but how important do you think that is into the future success of products?
So it's funny, if I'm being really honest, and I want to be, because I think there's a lot of like dishonesty around sustainability. It's so important from a macro stance and from like a world improving stance, right? And you can't sleep at night with your product if you do absolutely nothing or you just don't give a shit. So you have to care. The problem is that a lot of times sustainability is just approached by just one thing. They'll say, oh, we're using recycled plastic, but recycled plastic's actually not that sustainable. You can't really recycle beauty products. They're too small. A lot of people don't know that. So when you start to scratch the surface, you realize that like a ton of the sustainability stories are just kind of nonsense. And that feels like really disingenuous and really crappy. So the way we approached it at Winky is we partnered with a company called Repurpose who made us plastic neutral, which we went to India. We saw their plans. We vetted out how they do it, but they remove ocean-bound plastic from the environment. So the majority of ocean-bound plastic ends up in the third world, or the developing world, I should say. And it is really, really tragic. And
Yeah.
like kind of everyone should go see it because it's pretty bad. And so it was a way for us to offset some of that problem. And in the meantime, even like sustainable plastics, one of the problems we found there was that, biodegradable plastics have a lower shelf life. And so you get higher decomposition on shelf, and then you get products that are thrown in the trash. And that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
You get glass is highly recyclable, but it's very heavy. And so you use much more carbon to transport glass products. So it is like, you take from one side and you add to another. So the only way to look at it is holistically. And then to be totally frank, I haven't seen it drive sales in a way that I wish it would drive sales. I think consumers, and it's not their fault, like consumers are busy. They are living their lives. It's not their job you know, to vet every business they deal with to the nth degree. Like, who has time for that? But the flip side of that is like, I think they're much more concerned with value and making sure that it solves the problem that they have. And so really kind of unfortunately falls down to like what the CEO's ethics are. And that I think some big companies will have external pressure, but for small companies, it really comes down to like what the founder wants to do. And that we approached it from that perspective. So that was the way that we felt it was most effective. Does that make sense? But yeah, I could go into
Yeah. Some founders I talk to tell me, and I could see why, right? Like, so I want to be, me and a friend are going to start a company. I'm going to start my own company. I'm thinking of everything that surrounds the products that I want to bring to market, right? The last thing I thought about was I'm actually going to be running the company itself, right? Which includes everything from, price points and tying in with accounting to, making sure that you have the right culture and shaping the people that you bring in. Maybe talk to a little bit about that, like the leadership techniques or maybe some ups and downs in the whole leadership world, because away from the product and the decision-making upon packaging and sustainability and cool new ideas coming to market, there's this, you have to keep the lights on. You have to make sure that this is paid for. And that, tell me about that. How was getting used to that as a startup and doing all this and being a mother all at the same time?
Well, I'm back in it. I'd forgotten a lot of that until now I'm back in it. And I'm like, oh my God, I can just set up the accounting software. I'm like, oh my God, I have to deal with the insurance and shipping and set up FedEx accounts. Like there's so much stuff that goes into running a business. It's like the cost of the fun though. Like if you find the creation and the connection with the consumer that fun, which I do, it's like a drug. It's so fun. Then it's not that high of a cost because you'd have to do a lot of like just in the weeds work, but it's fine. And then hopefully you are on to something that's powerful enough that you can, try to quickly kind of offload some of that administrative stuff and you can be pathfinding as a CEO. But I've never really found anyone who could do that full time. So
It's all about getting the right partners in place too, to be able to handle that.
always the people.
So you've sold the company, but if I'm buying a company from you and I see the passion and the look in your eye as you're still talking about this with the love and I could see that you're still heavily tied in with the brand itself and all that you put into it, I'd be very excited to be in that world. Do you still sort of connect with those folks?
Oh yeah, totally. I'm having lunch with the new CEO in a couple weeks. Like it's great. And the company's in good hands. It's with a great new CEO who's run some much bigger companies than I ever ran. And so it's good. And then I'm really kind of like, I'm a high growth person. Like it is interesting to me when we are like, foot on the gas pedal and going really fast. And there's a time when the company gets to a point where it needs to be more optimized, where it needs to be, you're really thinking about, how do we make sure that each business line is going, you're really much more in the weeds with that. And that is a different type of CEO. And that's great. That's a good evolution. So I'm back to where I am the most valuable, which is like as a pathfinder and a performance marketer and someone who's like obsessed with consumer and product market fit.
Is it kind of like this is just my naive brain working, right? Like, it's kind of like your child is graduated from college, they're getting married, and you're kind of like, I did all that I can do. Look how wonderful he or she is. I'm going, right? Is kind
Such a good, yes, yeah.
because as you were explaining it, I'm like, what do I have? Like, I have two children that got married, and I'm like, it's kind of like that too. Like, you're so sad, but you're so excited all at the same time.
Totally. There is like different seasons of life.
Yes.
It's hard though. I mean, look, you're like, new product comes out and you're like, oh, that's cool, but I didn't create that one or I didn't do that, and it's weird, but it's also good. And again, it's like knowing you're not having so much, like my identity is tied to the company in a way, but it's really more tied to being a founder and it's tied to like pathfinding. And I got a little taste of that over the past couple of years. I got to sit on some boards of other companies and and I still am, and I got to invest in some other companies. And I realized like, it's the problem solving that's the fun. It's the newness and it's the finding the white space in the market that's the fun. It's not just the one brand or the one product. So that's been fun to like discover other parts of myself in that way.
I know you're also involved a lot in the peer learning world too. Somebody who has sort of had the experience or taken the steps that you've taken has the most valuable experience, right? Which is day-to-day activity experience, the pluses, the minuses. What do you bring to that? Like, do people come to you looking for like, hey, can you help me get my business going? Or are they more looking to you like, hey, I've gotten my business going. I hit a wall. I need some help. Can you show me around this?
I think both.
Yeah.
And it's reciprocal too. Like
You never stop learning, right? Yeah.
I go to other CEOs all the time. I'm sure I'll learn stuff from you. Like I learn from other CEOs constantly. And I was just talking about ERP systems and put it into I have like I have a couple of different founder chats and, was asking people about, which ERP system is there any way we can get off? We cannot do NetSuite this time. So that network is like valuable. Otherwise you have to go out and do everything on your own. You can't. Yeah. You don't have like the benefit of asking someone who's already dealt with it.
And not only that too, but like you must get a tremendous amount of like just a really good feeling being able to give back, right? Because at one point in your life, you were that person on that side of the table going, what the fuck? What am I going to do here? Like the money's starting to run out, or, I don't have enough time, or I made these promises and how am I going to do it? Those type of things you're afraid to ask out loud, but need to be asked. It's nice to have somebody to be able to go like, I need you for 5 minutes. Like talk me off the ledge here on this one. Or what did you do with this when you were in this area? Right.
But you have to just not feel alone.
Yes, right? Because you've been through it. And like you've said here today, like every bad thing happens for a reason. And that old hokey saying, what doesn't kill you makes you better. It's true though, right? Yeah.
Totally.
So what can you tell us about your new venture that
It's so exciting. I partnered with an investment fund and we are launching a product that will launch in October. And we're going to start talking about it in a couple of months. And right now we're just kind of getting it up and running. And I feel like such a weirdo being like, I can't talk about it, but we did agree that we were going to announce it yet. So I want to be respectful, but I'm dying to talk more about it. It's in the consumer space and it's going to be really cool. And this particular group owns a ton of media companies. And so I keep looking for something that has an unfair advantage. And I haven't, as I was like out in the market looking at things, there's a lot of cool opportunity, but it's hard to get eyeballs now. It's really, really hard to get eyeballs. And so you're competing against everything else that your customer is looking at or watching or doing. It's not just your direct competitors. It's like I'm competing against, if they're not looking at my content, they're looking at someone else's content. So I can be competing against, what are those little like micro dramas everyone's into. But anyway, this particular company has like a ton of media assets. And this was kind of an idea around leveraging some of those assets to get cheap eyeballs. So we'll see. Like, you just never know until you're out there doing it. But I think it's going to be really cool. But I'm back in the beginning, which is both terrifying and
And
also
wonderful.
really fun. Yeah.
Natalie, Mackey, thank you so much. You know her from Winky Lux. She brought it to prominence. She made it wonderful. Keep your eye on this one because this is going to be a fabulous story. When this success story hits, you got to come back in and do part 2 of this.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.